my biggest fear was taking on challenges that I didn't know how I was going to yet accomplish, and just saying yes to opportunity, which got me out of my comfort zone. And then oftentimes what came from that is an opportunity for growth and development, and really figuring out that it wasn't as hard and complicated as what I had built it up to be in my head.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Moeller Real Estate and Business Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Moeller, and on this podcast, we will be interviewing guests that have made their mark in real estate, in business, and in other areas of life. Listening to podcasts myself has helped me in so many different ways and continues to do so. If you're a real estate investor or an entrepreneur, or aspiring to be either, or just someone that wants to learn, you've come to the right place. An easy way to have an impact is to share this episode with friends or family, provide a review, or just spread the word. We greatly appreciate it, and now let's get to the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Moeller Real Estate and Business Podcast. Very excited for today's guest, Mr. Jared Pfaff. Jared, how are you doing today?
Doing wonderful, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So for our listeners, Jared is from a small town in southwestern Indiana. Just think Larry Bird and French Lick. He's close to there. I know it's Jasper, or even really specifically Ireland, Indiana, of all places. So I looked up where that was here before the interview, and it's a cool little town. We were actually close to there a couple years ago. But for our listeners, Jared is a visionary entrepreneur and real estate investor, owner of Pfaff Construction and Pfaff Real Estate. So both a construction business, but also you invest in real estate. And I know you have a fair amount of properties, both residential and self-storage. Family man, world traveler, some other things too. But Jared, a pretty cool story, and you're also a pretty young guy that has had a lot of success. How did you get to where you are today? Kind of tell me the backstory and what led to where we are now.
Yeah, Phil, thanks for the opportunity. I'll take you back to kind of a young kid, grew up. My family was middle class, a great family, well knitted together. And it was me, my sister, and my parents, which they're all still together. So we've had a great family, great upbringing. They distilled a lot of great values. My dad was a business owner with his brothers. So growing up, I got the itch for some entrepreneurship, and I also got the hard work ethic that came from both sides of the family. So I'm thankful for that. That was instilled at a young age. I think my journey kind of starts, I'll start when I was probably 10, 12 years old. My dad started taking me along at a young age, and I had the opportunity where, I think most kids probably didn't have somebody that they could be mentored by that was in the business space. So I think that sets me apart a little bit. But I did have a drive. I wanted to learn. I looked up to my dad and his hard work and what him and his brothers had created. So they had a lawn care business. So I grew up in that realm. Pretty normal life. We did a lot of fun camping trips. We did a lot of things as a family. But I think the kind of pivotal moment for me was, there are certain things in life that I noticed that I wanted to pursue, or I had interest in, and my parents brought me up with, if there's something that you want, they would always allow me to work towards it, but they wouldn't buy it for me. So that spark inside of me is kind of what drove me to start mowing yards at a young age, snow removal, at 10, 12 years old, raking leaves, working side jobs, and then also working, evenings and weekends. So that kind of pushed me through with the idea of if you work, 70, 80, 90 hours a week, that's success. And nothing against my parents or anything they taught me. I think that was just a general practice of hardworking DuBois County, Southern Indiana. I think you have a hard time finding another area that has quite the work ethic that people around here do. So that was a first principle for me. And so I kind of pursued that with my head down. And then kind of going through high school, I had a couple of mentors that kind of led me a little bit more into the construction side. I was always interested in heavy equipment, building, um, just because I think it was results driven, and I enjoyed what I did. So I had an opportunity to compete through high school through a mentor that kind of seen a vision or spark in me, and he kind of took me under his wing. Competed in some building competitions through high school, ended up winning regional, state, and then went to nationals to represent Indiana. That led me to a scholarship in construction. And so that kind of changed a pivot. That was kind of a pivotal moment where, I had to make a decision. Am I going to go heavy equipment operating or am I going to go, residential construction? So knowing that the time and energy people had put in, I was like, I'm going to go for this residential construction. So I went did a 2 year degree, and all along the way, I was asking questions. I had great instructors, and I found out the more questions you ask, the more relationships you build, the more people really want to help you. So I started doing side jobs, small things from, staining decks to pressure washing to, whatever playground maintenance or house maintenance. And then it turned into additions, bathroom remodels, and then eventually into building additions, new homes, and commercial space, which is what we do today. Um, and so the interesting thing about that was my head was still down. I was still grinding. Um, but I want to back up a second because in that time frame, um, I had met my wife in middle school and through high school, and we had been together quite some time, and I want to give her a shout out for being super supportive because she was part of that direction. But during that time, we had been dating for quite a while. She went through college, and we got married in 2013. Um, and the reason I wanted to back up was my head was still down. I was still pushing ahead, um, and I still had this mentality that if you took off or you took vacation, somebody looked at you as you're not a hard worker, you're slacking. So next pivotal moment, we had an opportunity to go on a vacation with some friends to Montana. I built this false belief that I couldn't go more than 2 or 3 days because I had to be back at work. And because I had created this machine of a business, construction business that I was leading and people counted on. And that's kind of what I thought business looked like at the time. So, long story short, went on a great vacation and kind of got a taste of what travel looks like. Meanwhile, I'm starting to think to myself, I'm working 80, 90 hours a week. What do I have to show for it? I'm running my own business. I haven't put anything away from retirement. I haven't, I have assets. I'm purchasing equipment that depreciates, but what am I really going to have to look back upon? At that point in time, I started looking into options of investments, and I started, everything kept popping back to real estate. So I had an opportunity to purchase a duplex. Actually, when I say me and my wife went and looked at it as a team, and we didn't know much about it, but that night when we got home, it was research on the internet, and we decided to pull the trigger on that. The day that my wife was due with our first son, our oldest Eli, which was a little over 8 years ago. That journey, I'll kind of go down the real estate journey a little bit as I talk through the story. We started putting more time and effort into learning this real estate thing. What was it? How do we provide, housing for somebody? How do we have a safe place that's fair rent and, take care of something? How does this work? How do we become a great landlord that is oftentimes looked upon as maybe a negative or a lesser career path. So at that point, we're juggling. We have a newborn, still working a ton of hours, and now I have another full-time job, which is real estate in the evenings. So wife was super supportive, and I think looking back, something that I overlooked at the time was, not putting enough time and effort into making sure that family was first. And, it's easy to put a lot of time in and think that you're doing the right thing, but you're kind of doing it for the wrong reasons. And so, kind of fast forwarding back up into the timeline, we were still running the construction, things were going good, we were building it. And so we started having these opportunities of, oh, well, here's another property that's for sale, and let's purchase and renovate. And the opportunities just kept getting bigger. The more people we talked to, the more relationships we built, and we started getting the word out, which then went into learning the finance world. What does that look like? What's even available out there? Is somebody supposed to really even have more than one mortgage? And so we learned a lot fast. And then we got into the opportunity of just saying yes to opportunity, even when we thought maybe the finances weren't there. Opportunity was presenting itself. We loved which direction we were going, but we just figured out how to get creative. And whenever you show interest and when you show a passion for something and you ask questions, people want to help you,
I
and
want to
that's what we found. So yeah, we ran down that road, which then took us into self storage and commercial, and we can get into more later if you got questions. But then I kind of pivoted back to the construction, like, we're building this machine. How do we build it to support employees better? How do we build it as a team, where it's not everything relying on me and I get the credit for the work that other people are, honing their skills on.
I want
And
to before we go into that, because I want to dig into how you built your team and how you I think shifted based on knowing you from, the work at the quote, the perception of success in 70 to 80 hours a week, as you said, to what you're doing now. But before I do, you've said this in a couple of different ways. You talked a lot about your dad being your first mentor. You said other mentors. You said great instructors. You said just being relationships and people and asking a lot of questions. So for our listeners that are, either business owners, business leaders, real estate investors thinking about entrepreneurship, how did you approach these, outside of your dad, obviously, but like your other mentors? What was your approach to get their attention so that they would be willing to help you?
great question. I think the biggest thing for me is I just showed a motivation and a drive that most people didn't have. And I think part of that, maybe it wasn't so much they didn't have it as much as I think I put more emphasis on maybe whether you call it an older soul or somebody that maybe was trying to be a little bit more mature for my age. And my focus wasn't on partying on the weekends and hanging out with all my buddies, because a lot of my good buddies were working as well. So I think that takes you to answer your question. I showed initiative, I showed interest, and I asked questions. And I also think that piggybacks off the premise of, you're the average of the five people you hang around with, work wise, financial wise, fitness wise, health wise. And some of the people that I hung around with, they were working hard for their dreams and goals. And so I think that all played a role in me, following the path that I did. And, I want to, I mentioned my dad in there, and his dad, my grandpa at the time, which has passed, he was a pivotal role in there as well. He was hardworking. We spent a lot of time together, and he gave a lot of great advice. And I think it's just comes back to just the ability to listen more than talk, and just be open to ideas, whether you like them or not. Because I think, at that young of an age, in your teens or 20s, you're a little bit rebellious and you think you know it all. I think just being vulnerable and being willing to ask for help, I think is an important part.
Yeah, some key. I mean, just you know, just initiative, interest, maturity, probably at the time, questions, and like just being really curious, I think. And you're, average of 5 people you hang out with. Like I love that. And, you will become with whom you associate. You're the average of your 5 best friends. If you want to see what you're going to be like in 5 years from now, look around at who you're hanging out with, and that's what your life's going to be like. So I love that. And honestly, we have 2 ears and one mouth. So listening more than we talk, we can learn more that way too, is a great lesson. I want to go back now to, we'll talk about travel and family, because you're so successful from the worldly lens of, I think, business and, financially probably, in construction and entrepreneurship, but you're really, I think, successful because of your health, your family, the relationships, the travel and experiences you create. So before we go into some of the things you're doing there, because I think that'll be fun for the listeners to listen to, how did you set it? You were starting to talk about how you set up your business to enable that, and shifting from this 70 to 80 hour a week mindset to, I don't have to do that. And you started talking about your team and people, and when you shifted back to kind of focusing on construction. So tell me more about that.
It's a good question, and I'll be the first to admit that I definitely have to fail through that stuff first. So I rely a lot on podcasts. I rely a lot on other mentors, asking questions and research, because I feel like we're often, or at least for me, you're not taught how to properly, as an entrepreneur, you're kind of got all these different ideas and you're just trying to execute. And you can often leave a fire behind you that's burning. You feel
I
like
don't
you're
know what
getting
you're
things
talking about.
done. You know how it is. But it's like, okay, now we often, I think my biggest regret so far is I didn't realize how other people are different, whether it be my friends, wife, family, because personality is a big thing, and not everybody thinks the way entrepreneurs do. So it was a little bit of a learning lesson as I worked through with some different coaches of, understanding maybe how other people perceive um, kind of what my actions, what I say, what I do. So getting back to your question, definitely failed through a lot of it. I'm not perfect at it, but I knew that if I wanted to live a life that I put my family and some of my passions forward, I needed to create some more time and space. And to do that, it forced me to start delegating. And it was a struggle for me for a while, because I was always taught, if you want to do something right, you got to do it yourself, because you have the vision, you know what you want to do, and it's quicker. It's sometimes great if you're doing things once, but if you're doing things over and over and over again, that little bit of time saving is now, eating away at your part of your 24 hours that you have that day. So, and the thing that I came to realize is a lot of people love doing some of the things that maybe are a little bit burdensome for you and I. And oftentimes they have better ideas, they can do it better, they can do it faster. They just need somebody to empower them and trust in them and hand them the baton. And so I think it's taken me longer than what I would like to learn that. And I'm still on the course, and I'm still looking to get better. I work with coaches constantly on that to see my blind sides. And I think it's just something it's an ongoing journey to learn from people that have seem to be doing better and are farther along in their journey. So I'm getting there, but it's a work in progress.
One thing that I think you said early on, like, I mean, I referenced it, but the perception that 70 to 80 hours a week, that's success. And that was your perception. I think my message for the listeners is everyone has their own different perception of what success looks like, but I don't know that everyone has really thought about deeply what success or fulfillment or whatever it is looks like for them and like really written it down and defined it. And at some point through your books, podcasts, mentors, coaches, you reshaped or redefined what success looks like based on health, family, relationships, travel, and adventure, things like that, it sounds like. So I guess my message is like, what is success for you? What success is for me isn't what success is for Jared, and it isn't what success is for you individually. We all need to think about what it is for us, what that means based on our personal situation. And the lens we have of that is the people that we hang around with as well. So just, I think being thoughtful of that and trying to figure that out and paying attention to why you think what you think is important and that's kind of the beginning part of starting to change that if it needs changed.
Yeah, and I think you're touching on a very important topic that I would say if I could go back and tell my younger self something, I would definitely um, get more knowledge around vision, purpose, um, in which direction I wanted to go. I was always like, oh, this is exciting. I'll go down this path. And I never really sat down until, the last couple of years where I learned a little bit more about, you need to create a mission statement. You need to have, what are your morals that are guiding you through life? What vision do you want for you, your business, your family? What are your guide rails of what's your line in the sand? And I never had that before. And so it was easy for me to get off into left field.
Yep.
And I think part of that is just the evolution of learning. But if there's something that I could tell to your listeners and your audience is, and if you don't know how to do that, my first big experience of that was a Tony Robbins Date with Destiny that me and my wife went through with a wonderful group of people. And that really was a good reset for us and gave us some good clarity on, what is success? Kind of going back to what you asked, Phil, because it's not the destination, it's not the top of the mountain. Um, it's the journey and how do you get comfortable in your own skin to where you like the people you hang around with. They lift you up, you lift them up. You love you're not going to enjoy every moment, but how do you just be at peace and not be chasing materialistic items for happiness?
I loved it. And you hit on the Tony Robbins event, which is an event that you likely traveled for. So I want to get into kind of travel because I think we share the thought process that you can accomplish a lot of different buckets of your life through travel. I want you to talk more about that. Before you do, though, so we're recording this in August of 2024. Just off the rip, where have you traveled to thus far in 2024, if I can ask?
Yeah, 2024. We were in we have a place in Montana, a house there. So we spent after Christmas to New Year's. I was in Mexico doing some deep sea fishing with some good friends and Cancun. And then I think it was in March. I was in British Virgin Islands at Ariel BVI for a retreat there, a couples retreat. I traveled with a group of guys to Morocco in May, which was amazing. 2.5 week trip in Africa. And my next journey is coming up in September. I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa and doing a safari. So those are kind of there's two big ones in there, Morocco and going to Africa to climb Kilimanjaro. So those are kind of two big chunks this year
And
that
these are some long trips too. So you're able to do those, but you're the visionary entrepreneur owner of a construction company, and that is working well.
Yeah, it's going pretty good. There's always some challenges with that because, I have built the business early on, and some of the people that have been with me longer, they still really like direction and my presence, and I enjoy doing it. But I also know that in my vision, I enjoy travel, and I'm not going to be able to do these things forever. So one of the things that popped up that my grandpa said to me kind of on his deathbed when I was sitting with him is, I we did things and we traveled as kids, but or when we had kids, but we waited to do the major stuff until after I was retired and your grandma was retired, and at that point, her knees couldn't take certain things, and we couldn't go and see and do the things that we wanted to because we didn't have the full health, the body to do it, the energy to do it. So, he gave me the advice that if you can carve out a little bit of time at a young age and take your family, say yes to those trips if it'll work. And I think indirectly that has pushed me to make changes in the business to allow for some of those things. But not only do I want to do them, also I want to encourage employees. I want to encourage other people to do the same thing. I don't want it to be something where, oh, I'm doing it because I'm a business owner. I think people should find a way to follow their dreams, regardless of if, you're a business owner, you're self-employed, you're an employee. I think, that time you can never get back. And I would just encourage everybody to follow their dreams on that.
Man, I love that, and I don't think we've talked about it. And hearing that from your grandpa at a young age, when he's as vulnerable as you can be, right? Um, had to be powerful, and I just see. I'm sure you're making him proud. I'm sure he's looking down and saying, "Man, he's really doing it." And I think the points are so important because first, your own health. Like if you want to go travel and do things, long hikes, see really neat, beautiful things, you might not be able to do that when you're 70 like you can when you're 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever. And then also, you have young kids, right? So the ability to do that, like certain things you're not going to do when you're old. You're not going to go to Disney as an example when you're older. You need to do that stuff when your kids are young. And if you want to give those experiences to them and just experience those things as a family. So I think putting an emphasis or priority on those things appropriately, I think is so important. And honestly, there's some really cool things you're doing, and the fact that you're able to set your business up to allow you to do that, I think is really neat. If you step back and kind of look through this your whole business journey, what was the biggest fear you had when you were kind of, yeah, either an individual or general fear that you had as you were building your business and shifting kind of your mindset over time?
I'd say it's a good question. I'm sure there's a lot of them over the years. Um, because I think my tolerance for risk was maybe a little bit higher than most, so I would say yes to a lot of things. I think my biggest fear was taking on challenges that I didn't know how I was going to yet accomplish, and just saying yes to opportunity, which got me out of my comfort zone. And then oftentimes what came from that is an opportunity for growth and development, and really figuring out that it wasn't as hard and complicated as what I had built it up to be in my head. And you put more emphasis on the mental than what reality typically is.
Yep.
So yeah, my biggest fear was always just taking on something bigger, the unknown, and not knowing how I was going to accomplish it or how it was going to get done.
And I think just to tie back to, your comment that you just started a couple years ago, thinking really more about vision, purpose, direction, mission, morals, what are the guide rails? I suspect that before that time period, you were really like, hey, yes, let's do it. Yes, let's do it. But all those different experiences of trying all these different businesses, crazy things, whatever it was, helped form you to know what that looks like as well. So if I guess for the listeners, if you're not clear what that is right now, that's okay. Try some different things because that'll help you, that'll build the guide rails as to the direction you want to go, I think.
Yeah, and to play off of that, Phil, I would say there is a season for taking massive action, and I think that season I probably stuck in way longer than what I would have had to. because at some point you're just working extra hours and you're not really getting ahead. But I think there is a time where you need to put your head down, grind, and you know, and not take the weekend off. Work till 1 o'clock in the morning, get these things done because later in life, a month from now, 2 years from now, you'll be thankful that you did. I don't know that the answer is working 30 hours a week and expecting to have everything you want. And if you can figure it out, that's awesome. But I think there is a season for grind, and I think it's okay. It's just how do you get normalized as quick as possible and not let the rest of your life, your relationships, your marriage, your friendships, suffer because you're stuck in this rut of thinking that you have to work that much.
Yeah, that's really good. I love this, just the seasons phrase and thinking about that. And honestly, I think as you build your vision, build your vision based on the season you're in, how old you are, the age of your kids, your personal situation, whatever it might be. If you step back and reflect, um, how does what you have done and what you're doing, how does it make you feel?
Definitely, it's exciting. I'm a curious person. I like to try things. I like to do new things. So um, it makes me feel alive. It also, I have a lot of gratitude for all the people, the help along the way, the mentors. You know, ultimately, my wife, she stood beside me during long days, took care of all the things, the kids, the running. So that I could work late when I needed to, or meet with somebody or go on a trip. Somebody's still at home taking care of all these things um, whenever I'm on a trip, or I need to stay late at the office. So I'm just super grateful for everybody along the way, customers, employees, great friends. And I think, it takes an army of people, and I don't want it to feel like, I'm the only person. I like to give satisfaction. I love to give appreciation to others as well because they deserve it.
I love it. I like how you just said it just makes you feel alive. That's great. What do you think? What has been your key factor to fulfillment?
I think it's tough. It's a constant struggle that I'm on. Um, I think my biggest challenge with fulfillment is quieting my mind down because I like to do so many things, and I like to have hobbies. Um, I need to spend, and I am spending more time focusing around, quieting that busyness and just being able, because I think ultimate happiness is sitting with yourself in a quiet place in the middle of nowhere and just being completely content, no anxiety, no worries, and just be able to be happy with where you're at and what you've done, and the people you've crossed in your life, and not having any regrets. So that's probably my biggest.
I love that. What has been a the most impactful book that you've read?
Most impactful book. That's a tough one. Uh, I would say that a lot of people will say this one, but Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of kicked it off for me. The real estate side of things just got me thinking different, and I think that opened something up in my mind that it was okay to go a different path. It was okay to do things different, but it also helped me understand things a little bit more about business and finances and investment.
I love it. I love it. Well, Jared, this has been great. I mean, a lot of you're a young guy with a really successful business, a really nice real estate portfolio, but more importantly, a really nice kind of resume or set of experiences with others, with your family, with your kids, um, your health. You just got things really dialed in all areas of life. So congratulations on that, and thanks for bringing so much just different wisdom. I'm looking through all my notes. I mean, your talk and commentary on mentorship, not just your dad and your grandpa, but others, your kind of thought process around travel, how you set up your business for that, saying yes to things, knowing what season of life you're in, just a lot of different wisdom throughout the discussion. So I really appreciate it. How can our listeners find out more about you?
Yeah, so probably I'm not on a ton of social media platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Facebook. That's probably the best two places to get a hold of me. Honestly, Facebook, Jared Pfaff. Um, I probably don't even know the exact handle for it, but yeah, one of those two places. If you look me up, you can find me. There's the last name's not super common, so I'm not a Smith or somebody like that.
Yeah,
So
there
you
you
can
go.
find me.
Awesome, Jared. This again, thank you so much for coming on, for sharing all your wisdom with our listeners. We greatly appreciate it, and we hope to see you soon. For the Mueller Real Estate and Business Podcast, we are signing off. Thank you for listening to the Mueller Real Estate and Business Podcast. We hope you found today's episode helpful. If you know current or aspiring investors or entrepreneurs or anyone that would benefit from today's episode, we appreciate you sharing it with them, or better yet, providing us a 5-star review. To learn more about Mueller Real Estate, visit our website at www.muellerre.com. You can also sign up for our newsletter or local events via our website. In closing, I encourage you to be purposeful in all areas of life, educate yourself, network with others that have been successful, take action, and lead. Thank you.